Dak Prescott is the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. From this statement alone, you know he receives unfair criticism. Tony Romo is one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, but he forever remains known as one of the league's biggest chokers simply because of one or two high-profile losses. Over the years, we've collectively come together to become smarter as football fans, and Romo is slowly becoming seen as the hyper-efficient quarterback he was. Let's not go through this song and dance with Dak Prescott too, shall we? Prescott is currently a fringe top 10 quarterback in the NFL, but based on national perception, you'd think he was a backup at best, simply based on the fact that he has a star on his helmet. Prescott had an elite season in 2019, but it has gone largely unrecognized due to the team's record. Meanwhile, the guy he's always compared to, Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz, has gotten propped up despite a mediocre 2019 season. It boils down to an obsession with the phrase more with less, when really it's more with more versus less with less. In 2019, Dak Prescott vastly outperformed Carson Wentz in every single meaningful statistical category. He was Pro Football Focus's 10th highest graded quarterback compared to Wentz, who was 16th. Dak also often gets nagged for being too conservative. Good thing we track those stats too, right? On passes thrown 20 or more yards down the field, Dak was the league's 4th highest graded passer per PFF. He completed 46% of those passes for 15.2 yards per attempt and a passer rating of over 110. Wentz, meanwhile, came in at 10th place, completing just 35% of his passes at 10.7 yards per attempt with a rating of 79. But that's just because Wentz was playing with a much worse receiving corps, right? Sure, Wentz wasn't playing with the best group out there, nobody's denying that. But he wasn't the quarterback whose receivers dropped the most passes in the league last season. Nope, that was also Dak Prescott. His receivers dropped 36 passes last year compared to just 28 for Wentz. By season's end, Wentz was playing with a lot of unknowns, but we don't have to exaggerate and act like Dak was playing with all pros out there. Sure, his guys were more talented on paper, but you have to judge them based on how they actually played. What people don't get is, it doesn't matter how talented your skill players are great throws regardless. This would have been a great throw whether it was thrown to Amari Cooper or Greg Ward. Dumbing down arguments to their most basic forms is just much easier than actually looking at things with nuance. People would rather glance at depth charts than actually dive into the film themselves. According to Pro Football Reference, Prescott had a higher percentage of on-target passes and a lower rate of bad passes, and this was, as mentioned before, while attacking down the field far more often. Prescott averaged 8.2 yards per attempt, which was the 5th best mark in the league. Wentz's paltry mark of 6.7 ranked 25th. Even adjusting for sacks, touchdowns, and interceptions, Prescott still ranked 6th in the league with a 7.84 mark, while Wentz jumped only to 16th. This was not a matter of getting the ball into athletic guys' hands and letting them run either. Prescott also averaged 9.3 intended air yards per attempt, while Wentz averaged just 8 air yards. The difference was the same for completed air yards. Dak Prescott was ESPN's 4th-ranked quarterback in the league per QBR, while Carson Wentz was 11th. Prescott was 6th in Football Outsiders' DVOA mark, while Wentz was 20th. For their total value DYAR mark, Prescott was rated the best quarterback in the NFL. Wentz was 17th. Should I go on? Okay, I will. Expected points added per play, Dak was 8th, Wentz was 14th. Success rate, Prescott was 3rd, Wentz was 11th. Even in CPOE, where Dak ranked middle of the pack at 15th, he was still better than Wentz, who sat at 22. Even admitting that 2019 was a career season for Dak, let's take a look at the career numbers. First of all, Dak has never missed a game, while Wentz has gotten hurt in each of the past 3 seasons, playing in only 56 of a possible 64 games. So we'll mostly focus on efficiency numbers, although Dak has thrown only 16 more passes. Prescott has Wentz beat in completion percentage, passer rating, yards per attempt, adjusted yards per attempt, net yards per attempt, adjusted net yards per attempt, QBR against the blitz, QBR on third downs, QBR on fourth downs, and EPA per play since 2016, and he's also been a much bigger rushing threat. He's thrown only one more interception than Wentz has, 36-35, but he's fumbled 17 less times. As much as people want to deny it, fumbles count too. For those that want to label Dak a choker, keep this in mind. He has more fourth quarter comebacks than Wentz, 8-6, more game-winning drives than Wentz, 14-8, and has actually completed more than one playoff pass. In the divisional round to the Packers in 2016, Prescott completed 63% of his passes for 302 yards, 3 touchdowns, and just 1 turnover as a rookie. He led 2 touchdown drives to tie the game in the fourth quarter, only to watch the Packers go up a field goal with a minute and a half left. Prescott needed less than a minute to get the Cowboys into field goal range to tie the game again. It's just not his fault that his defense let Aaron Rodgers do this on 3rd and 20 and win the game in the final seconds. Then, in 2018, after entering the fourth quarter down 14-10 to the Seahawks in the wild card round, the Cowboys scored twice in the final period to win. Again, the following week, Prescott played a good game, completing 63% of his passes while averaging almost 9 yards per attempt and not turning the ball over. It's just not his fault that his defense let 2 separate Rams running backs that don't matter rush for over 100 yards. Detractors love to point to the Week 16 game last year where the Eagles beat the Cowboys 17-9 in Philadelphia. It proves that Carson Wentz is better than Dak Prescott, they say. Sure, Wentz easily outplayed Prescott in that game, but so what? 1, how come this game determines who's better and not the October game that Dallas won 37-10? They count the same in the record books. 2, it's a team game. Quarterbacks don't win or lose games by themselves, nor do they play each other 1v1. 3rd, but most importantly, a sample size of 1 game will never be enough. If you want to go down that route, in games that both Wentz and Prescott started and finished, the Cowboys are 4-2 against the Eagles. Does that settle it? If you still want to prove that Dak Prescott is a choker and you resort to diving into the QB wins rabbit hole, you're still going to be disappointed, as under Wentz, the Eagles have led more middling teams than Prescott's Cowboys. Each quarterback led a great team, the 2016 Cowboys and the 2017 Eagles. Eliminate those 2 years and Prescott's record sits at 27-21, while Wentz is under 500 at 21-22. Prescott has led 10-6, 9-7, and 8-8 years, while Wentz has led 7-9, 5-6, and 9-7 years. By record, the Eagles were 1 game better than the Cowboys in 2019, but by the numbers, Dallas was much better than the record would show. They outscored opponents by 113 points, while Philly had a plus 31 point differential. The Cowboys losing the division crown to the Eagles wasn't proof that their quarterback was inferior. It was proof that their surrounding cast was inferior. Now, wait, hear me out. Yes, I know who Carson Wentz was throwing to by season's end, but it goes deeper than that. Also, it's possible to judge an individual player based on their individual actions outside of their supporting cast, but that's for another day. If you do want to go down that road, then the Eagles supporting cast won the Super Bowl without Wentz in 2017, and improved once Nick Foles entered the lineup in 2018 too. Now, I don't think Foles is better than Wentz, but there has to be something to that, right? Also, coaching matters. There is a ginormous difference between receiving play calls from Jason Garrett and receiving them from Doug Peterson. But I digress. In 2019, the Cowboys had the 4th best offense in football per DVOA and the 5th best passing offense. The Eagles, meanwhile, ranked 14th and 17th. The Eagles had the 14th best defense, while the Cowboys were 21st. Dak passed for 397 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Vikings, but Dallas lost because they gave up 38 points. This is why it's stupid to blame individual players for losses. Pay no mind to what ESPN's Eagles superfan of a stat boy tweets out, or what the guy who ran out of the back of his own end zone says on TV, as nobody likes irrelevant cherry-picked stats. How many consecutive games you throw a touchdown in doesn't matter, nor does how many wide receivers have 500 yards. I wrote an article earlier this month about the gross misuse of stats in media today, which is linked in the description. Point is, in almost every single meaningful statistic, Dak Prescott is better than Carson Wentz. Inevitably, this always boils down to a Prescott versus Wentz debate, when really they're both 2 very good young quarterbacks. It makes sense why, though. They were part of the same draft class, one being a top draft pick while the other was an unheralded 4th rounder, and they play for opposite teams in one of the most heated rivalries in sports. They will forever be linked. My point here is not to say that Carson Wentz sucks. To the contrary, I think he's very good, though I do find him to be a tad bit overrated. Through the first 4 years, Prescott has been better. This is not a projection for the rest of their careers either. Wentz may end up being better, and that's fine. I just want Dak Prescott to finally get the respect he deserves. Despite putting up a top 5 to 10 season by almost every metric in 2019, Dak is far too often treated as if he's a replaceable scrub. He's consistently shafted in analysts' top QB rankings in favor of guys with lesser resumes. Whether it's due to draft capital, race, or the logo on his helmet, the disrespect has to stop. You don't have to like him or root for him or anything. You just have to admit what he is as a quarterback. He's one of the NFL's best, and he's only getting better. The Cowboys would be smart to realize this.